Hello and welcome to Policy and Politics with me Tarun Nangia. Today we will discuss and know about the Fugitive Economic Offenders Ordinance and how did it lead to Vijay Mallya pleading to settle 9,000 crore of outstanding loans. We have with us Gopal Agarwal. He's spokesperson Economic Affairs, Bharatiya Janata Party. He's also the director of Bank of Baroda. He will discuss the issue with us in detail. Mr. Agarwal, before starting us, you also being a chartered accountant are the right person to discuss the issue with, I think.
Thank you, thank you.
So, what is the Fugitive Economic Offenders Ordinance in a nutshell?
It is because when the government was trying to solve the NPA issues, various aspects came before the government. One was some of the offenders who were not paying to the bank or other, were not meeting their liabilities, were running out from the country. And for that, the jurisdiction of Indian government was not there with regard to those persons if they go out of the country. To get their recover money from that, some strong measure was required so that they come to the negotiation table and their properties, if those exist in India, even if they are not available for the criminal proceedings, etc., within the country, their properties can be attached and the money can be recovered. Therefore, a need was felt that the government come out with a strong legislation so that the properties of those who have run away from the country and have large liabilities toward the domestic financial institutions, their money can be recovered from those people. And therefore, this ordinance or this bill, Fugitive Economic Offenders Bill, has been installed by the government.
So, I basically in a nutshell, if I can say that Modi government has brought this bill to ensure that nobody should, even if people run away from the country, we can catch them and get the money that they owe to people.
Yes, because once a person goes out of the nation, the jurisdiction of the local investigation agencies or recovery systems in the country or the government to recover money from that person is not there. So that the best way is to confiscate their property and bring them to the negotiation table so that the money can be recovered, and therefore this has been brought into existence.
So basically, if I speak in Hindi, it may say कि नाक दबा के पैसा निकाल लिया आप लोगों ने लोगों के.
बिल्कुल, अल्टीमेटली क्या होता है, जैसे आप विजय माल्या का ही देख लीजिए, केस हम लेते हैं तो 9,000 करोड़ की लायबिलिटी थी, और जहाँ तक अब इससे पता चल रहा है कि वो दैट इज़ द फर्स्ट एग्जाम्पल case in which the government is able to act on this, is that his assets are to the tune of more than 13,500 crores in various proceeds of the crimes and various assets that belongs to him. तो उन सब चीज़ों को confiscate करके या उस चीज़ों को उसको ऑफेंडर डिक्लेयर करके उसको रिकवर करने की प्रोसीजर को आगे बढ़ाने का एक महत्वपूर्ण ये प्रोसेस है.
अच्छा, I would want to know who is a fugitive economic offender if we go by the ordinance? Who is
actually the ordinance defines who is fugitive economic offender. One thing is his liability towards various economic offense should be more than 100 crores, and second, he should have run away from the country. These are the two basic requirements, that the value of money to be recovered and under his possession through proceeds of the crime should be more than 100 crores, and secondly is that he has refused to come to the country and face the trial or face the consequences or face the legal proceeding domestically, and he is run away from the country.
So basically more than 100 crore of default, and then he runs away from the country. That's when this new ordinance will kick in, basically.
Yeah, he can be declared as a fugitive economic offender under this ordinance.
Okay, okay. And if you could share with us, how is a person declared an offender? What is the procedure to declare a person an
offender? It's
a
well laid out procedure under the ordinance. Is that he has to. There are various procedures that he is offender. Something is property. The director of this bill ordinance has to file to the case to the special court, that with identifying the person whom this case is against, then a list of properties, those are belonging to that offender. Secondly, what are the crimes that the list of the crimes under which he has been charge sheeted. And third, then the fourth requirement is the that person director from in the special court has also to file the list of persons who may have interest in those properties. So four basic requirement is there. Identify the person whom they want to declare as an economic offender, fugitive economic offender. His address, etc. details are to be clearly filed with the special court. Second, his list of crimes where they consider that his offences under which schedule, what are the offences they want to recover money on the basis of those offences. Third thing is they have to give a list all his properties that they want to confiscate and attach under the ordinance. And the fourth is list of other persons or those who may have some interest in that property which the government want to attach for recovery of money. These four things are required, and once these things are filed with the special court, then the special court can proceed with the this declaring of a person as a fugitive economic offender.
Okay, and if we want to know what are the proceeds of crime, so when you say that he's committed a criminal act and he ran away, what are these proceeds of crime?
अंडर द ऑर्डिनेंस बिल के अंदर शेड्यूल एक दिया हुआ है जिसमें बहुत सारे वाइट कॉलर क्राइम्स की लिस्ट है, चाहे उसमें कई तरह के, चाहे क्राइम अंडर सेबी है, क्राइम अंडर बैंकिंग एक्ट है, वो इकोनॉमिक ऑफेंस के किसी भी तरह के उसके क्रिमिनल एक्ट हैं, वो शेड्यूल्स में बहुत सारे ऑफेंसेस हैं जिसको कि हम लिस्ट आउट कर सकते हैं कि दे आर अंडर द ऑफेंसेस अंडर द प्रिवेंशन ऑफ करप्शन एक्ट है, ऑफेंसेस अंडर कस्टम एक्ट है, ऑफेंसेस फॉर द रिजर्व बैंक ऑफ इंडिया एक्ट के अंडर है, नेगोशिएबल इंस्ट्रूमेंट एक्ट के अंदर है, और फिर उसके बाद सेबी के एक्ट के अंदर इतने जितने भी मनी लॉन्ड्रिंग पीएमएलए के अंडर इस तरह के जितने भी ऑफेंसेस हैं उसके, वो उन सबको उन तरह के क्राइम्स के अंदर वह शेड्यूल के अंदर उसको उन एक्ट के अंदर उसने कोई क्राइम किया है, एंड फ्रॉम दैट प्रोसीड्स ऑफ द क्राइम he has acquired some assets, etc. All those assets acquired through the proceeds of the crime will come under the proceeds of the crime, and those properties, etc., whatever assets have been acquired by the fugitive offender, they all can be attached under this ordinance for recovery.
Okay. Now we are all very curious to know that why did the Modi government bring it as an ordinance and not a bill which was to be passed in Parliament?
Actually, one thing is this was placed before the parliament, but as the opposition, etc., there was a hue and cry on various issues and the parliament could not function properly. So therefore there was no time for this bill to be discussed or passed at the floor of the house, and the parliament session ended there, and the government was keen to get the money back from. There were new cases coming up who were running out from the country, and their money had to be recovered or their properties had to be confiscated. So the government thought that it is wise initially to bring an ordinance till the next session of parliament. When the next session of parliament convenes from 18th July, I think the government will put it as a bill and it will be passed. Till that, this ordinance was required because fast action has to be taken. In all these white collar crimes or economic offences, it is important that the government acts fast, otherwise there can be diversion or transfer of properties. That is also an important.
Diversion and transfer of properties is a big issue.
And a provisional attachment is also required, because this bill gives a very strong power to the government to even provisionally attach the properties of the proposed offender. So that's an important aspect that gives an extra power to the government to provisionally attach those properties even before the whole process is completed, so that there is no diversion or so that the property is not siphoned off in other places.
So basically you think Modi government has given a indication कि business as usual नहीं चलेगा, आप लोगों का पैसा लेके भाग नहीं सकते. Basically you cannot take money from the banks and run away, and a lot of businessmen had made it a habit that to take loans not repay. So this culture will change.
Yes, definitely. ये बहुत ज़रूरी था. कारण क्या हो रहा था कि जो इकोनॉमिक ऑफेंसेस यानी एनपीए को अगर हम देखें, बैंकों के पैसे या गवर्नमेंट के पैसे लोग लेके उनको डाइवर्ट कर देते थे, प्रोजेक्ट में से अलग अलग जगह पे साइफन ऑफ कर देते थे। तो उसमें उसके बाद वो जब अल्टीमेटली जब स्ट्रॉन्ग आर्म गवर्नमेंट के एक्शंस की कोशिश होती थी तो वो देश से भाग जाते थे। तो एक तो ये बड़ी आवश्यकता थी कि एक स्ट्रॉन्ग लॉ हो। फिर आप इंटरनेशनल कोर्ट में जाइए, उनको रिपैट्रिएशन के लिए एप्लीकेशन डालिए, वो इतना लंबा प्रोसेस, उसमें कई कंट्रीज़ इन्वॉल्व थे, तो वह उतना बहुत स्लो प्रोसेस था और इफ़ेक्टिव प्रोसेस नहीं था। तो डोमेस्टिकली एक स्ट्रॉन्ग क्रिमिनल एक्ट की बिल की ज़रूरत थी, जिससे कि इस तरह के ऑफेंसेस में एक तो डेटरेंस हो, और अगर कोई करता है, कोई भाग जाता है पैसा लेके सरकार का या हमारे देश का टैक्स पेयर्स मनी, तो उसके ऊपर स्ट्रॉन्ग एक्शन लिया जा सके। और इसी लाइन में कई तरह के चेंजेस भी लाए हैं, चाहे बेनामी प्रॉपर्टी एक्ट सरकार लेके आई है, इंसॉल्वेंसी बैंकरप्सी कोड लाए। तो अल्टीमेटली प्रिवेंशन ऑफ करप्शन एक्ट का, जैसे अरुण जी ने भी परसों कहा कि वो 1988 में बना था हमारा प्रिवेंशन ऑफ करप्शन एक्ट, उसमें बहुत सारे गैप थे और उसमें सरकार के पास उतने स्ट्रॉन्ग आर्म पावर नहीं थे जिसके तहत वो एक्शन ले सके। तो इस तरह के स्ट्रॉन्ग बिल्स और स्ट्रॉन्ग पावर्स सरकार को आवश्यकता थी। तो जो बेनामी प्रॉपर्टी, आईबीसी और फ्यूगिटिव इकोनॉमिक ऑफेंडर ऑर्डिनेंस, इस तरह के बिल से अब कोई भी कॉरपोरेट हाउस सरकारी इंस्टीट्यूशंस का पैसा लेके आसानी से भाग नहीं सकता।
That's a moot point. Curious to know that there was a Benami Property Act which was already in existence. Then why did the government feel the need for this strong law to bring in the Fugitive Economic Offenders Ordinance?
Basically, Benami Property Act was a kind of recovery mechanism, and it is for applicable on domestic people, those who are residing inside the country, and they are citizen, though they are citizen, but still are available for the investigation agency domestically. And those who run away from the country, for them Benami Property Act was not applicable. For them to confiscate properties of those people who are absconding from the nation, this bill was required.
So this provisional attachment power was not there?
Yes, in Benami property it is more of a recovery sort of thing, because already the recovery has been fixed, and then they have their property within different names, in their family names or in their relatives' name. Those kind of properties are covered under Benami property. It is more of a recovery sort of this. Okay. This gives a proper, this gives a more, empowers the government to confiscate even provisional properties of those who are absconding from the nation.
On this note, we'll take a short break. After the break, we'll discuss what are the concerns of the industry at large, because there have been some noises from the industry that this law is very strict or draconian. But we'll like to know more from Mr. Gopal Agarwal. We'll take a short break and we'll be right back. Welcome back. Just before the break, we had Mr. Gopal Agarwal explaining to us the specifics of the Fugitive Economic Offenders Ordinance and how even the properties of offenders can be provisionally attached. We'll know from him regarding the industry concerns now. Mr. Agarwal, there have been a lot of concerns from the industry. Could you give us a roundup on what do you think are the concerns and how they can be addressed?
There is some concerns on the industrial part of it, and they say that it is a very strong bill, and it says that once a person gets into the net of by any reason or any situation, once he gets into this net of fugitive economic offenders ordinance, then there is no way out. So that's concerned. I think the government has taken cognizance of that in the bill only, and the procedure in itself gives the detailed rules on which how the government can proceed under this act. एक तो उसमें महत्वपूर्ण बात है कि अगर वह कभी जाता तो उसको एक नोटिस देना है for 6 weeks notice. Anybody, the government thinks that he should be declared as an fugitive economic offender, FEO, then the government has to give a 6 weeks notice to him. Within that 6 weeks, if he comes to the country and he surrenders before the investigation agencies or to the court, etc., with all the details that I am ready to be part of the investigation domestically, I am ready to settle the claims, etc., then this ordinance will completely lapse being implicable on him. So there is an ample chance for each individual that if he comes back to the country and surrenders himself to the legal process domestically, then he is out of the purview of this ordinance. Second thing is, there is second concern, big concern of the industry, etc., is that he loses, once a person is declared an FEO, fugitive economic offender, he loses all rights of claims against any thing in domestically. So that also government has a case in point, is that once you have yourself have run out of the nation, you have become an absconder. Why do you want the civil rights within the domestically available to a ordinary citizens? You want the rights of the civil claim, etc., domestically, but you don't want to put the responsibility of repayment of the loan, repayment of your liabilities, repayment of your proceeds of the crime, confiscation of those prices. So both things cannot happen. If you are not part of the legal process domestically, you yourself have chosen yourself to abscond from the nation and run away from the clutches of the investigation agency or the recovery mechanism, then how you still want to claim your civil rights to various aspects? So that is also doesn't hold the logic. And if he wants his claims, etc., to be restored, he can come back, then he will be relieved on this. Then the third important is that what happens to the claims of the third party. The government has confiscated the properties of the various fugitive economic offenders, and they can confiscate them and put it under the administrator. What happens to the third party claims?
So you mean other people who have to receive money?
So
what happens to them if the government attaches the assets?
Yes, so there are some claims on those assets for the third parties also, other than the person who is fugitive. Those claims are also an important issue. Some have shown concern that their rights, etc., will go away. It is not the case, because the government in the ordinance, it clearly says that section 4 gives a list of people whose interest is there in the property. So their claim will stand, though they have to, even if some people who are left out of filing any claim or out of the list of the people who have an interest in that property,
vendors who need to be paid,
they can still file their claim with the administrator, and this unsecured creditors, all their claims will be taken care of.
Okay, we want to know, suppose one industrialist gets caught in this net and all his properties are attached by the government. How can he get out of it?
He can, for one thing is that there is a 6 weeks notice for him. Within that 6 weeks, he comes back to the country, then this ordinance will automatically lapse. It is not applicable on him. So that is the only process. But once the process starts, then this is a criminal offense, and unless he is proved innocent through the whole process.
So you mean in these 6 weeks, if he pays the money back,
he comes back to come. It is not that within the 6 weeks he has to pay back. He has to come back to the country to surrender himself to the legal processes. Then he is out of the preview of this economic offenders bill. And one concern also, I think there is some justification in that in this the proof of offense under generally in the criminal cases, the proof to prove it beyond all doubt, this beyond all reasonable doubt, crime has to be proved under the criminal procedures through the investigation agencies. But in this, they have given relaxation that it is not that strong stringent requirement that the investigation agencies or government have to prove crime beyond all doubts. There is some concern on that, but I think these concerns will be taken care of within the rules and regulations which are being framed for in implementation of this bill.
So, but once if somebody's property is confiscated, can that person file a civil claim?
No, he cannot, because he loses that right to claim his civil rights on those properties, because he is himself chosen to abscond from the clutches of the law or domestic laws. So then he loses the right to
he cannot
civil
make a civil
claims,
claim in
or
court.
he himself cannot. But the third party's right is there; they can
But
claim.
he cannot claim.
Yes, he loses the right to file any civil claims.
But if I take this further, what are the consequences of being declared a fugitive economic offender? What are the overall consequences? So if you are declared, first your property is acquired, then what happens?
Then the administrator who is appointed by the government, all the properties, unencumbered properties rights will lie with the administrator. Then he can proceed with the liquidation or whatever, how to dispose of and how to recover. All rights and powers with regard to this proceeds of the crime property lies with the administrator. And it's also important, one major concern is taken care of the industrialists, is that the confiscation of the property, only those property or value equivalent value will be taken into confiscation only which are arising from the proceeds of the crime. अगर उसके proceeds of crime के अलावा उसने genuinely कोई property acquire किए कहीं से, तो वह इसके अंदर अटैच नहीं होगी. तो the investigation of agencies or directors or special through the special court, government agencies will have to prove that this property is acquired by the offender through the proceeds of the crime, and there is a criminal act equivalent to the value similar to that only will be confiscated.
So even his other funds and money which you acquired from other businesses will
with
not
legal businesses or through legal means will not be confiscated.
Okay,
under this.
okay. So if we see, the Modi government has brought in two things. First, they brought in the insolvency and bankruptcy code. So there was an insolvency mechanism where companies could be auctioned off if the promoters did not pay the loans. So they could change the management. And now they are attaching the properties itself if people run away. So do you think now the whole circle is now complete? That first you had an option that promoters could sell off their companies, but if they are fraud, the fugitive economic offenders ordinance will take care of that. So you think